of Ghana, the IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, other multilateral lenders, and our bilateral partners, and the good people of Ghana for their unwavering support and commitment as we build on the gains to transform our beloved country. I thank you, and may God bless our country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your remarks. And in summary, Minister has told us that the nation has built on the progress and taken further steps towards achieving the program objectives. And as announced by the IMF Mission Chief, indeed, we have reached staff-level agreement on the second review of the IMF program. And finally, that we remain committed to the effective implementation of the program, to growth and stability. And it is election year, but the finance minister has assured us that government will hold the line on expenditure. Thank you, Honorable Minister. It is now time for questions, and we invite the media to indicate if they would like to ask a question. Please keep your questions brief. One question per journalist. Please identify yourself, your name, and your media house. Thank you. We have George, please.
Name is George Yafe from Joy FM. To Stefan Rode, the bit about the reaching the agreement with the external creditors, does it include the negotiations with the Eurobond holders? And looking at the time that you also have to go to the board, can all these things be finalized before going to the board? I want some clarity on that one. Earlier on, when it comes to the Bank of Ghana financing, you were able to reach some level of agreement with the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance. With respect to the election-related spending, do you think that it should move beyond the assurance to also kind of an agreement with government so that you are sure that if you look at the cycle over the previous years, our biggest challenge has been the extra spending in election year, so that at least the program is quite stable going forward. On revenue.
Thank you, George. You asked two questions. Thank you. We'll take the next set of questions. One question, please.
Good morning, Minister. My name is Joshua from the BNFT. This question goes to the Mission Chief. So in your statement, you did mention that most of the quantitative areas were met, but one of the areas that which the Minister did mention had to do with the cocoa and the energy sector. My question to you is that what is your assessment of the effort that has been made so far within these two sectors, given what we've experienced in the short while with regards to particularly the energy sector? If you could just give us some indications of that.
Thank you, Joshua. One final question.
Good morning. My name is Manuel Bruce from Graphic. My question goes to Honorable Minister. At the last economic update, you indicated that the government were exploring other alternative measures to plug the 1.8 billion revenue loophole as a result of the suspension of the VAT on electricity. I wanted to find out if this conversation featured in your discussions with the IMF, and have you agreed on any alternative measures yet to plug this hole?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel from Graphic. So in summary, Stefan, I think there were three questions for you about the role of the agreement with the bondholders in taking our program to the board, and then also election year spending. What arrangements have been made to help ensure that government holds the line? And then we have a question on cocoa and the energy sector, that what is your assessment of the gains that the government has made in these sectors? And Honorable Minister, there is one question for you, asking what alternative revenue measures the government has explored to plug the revenue gap. Stefan, we'll come to you first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. So let me take first the question that has to do with debt restructuring issues. I think maybe I'll start just by reminding you, providing a broad overview of where we started from a place where the government had laid out a very comprehensive strategy to restructure its debt. And at every step of the way, we needed to have some progress made on the debt strategy for us to be able to bring the reviews to the program first and then the first review to the board. And so if you look back now, the domestic debt restructuring has been completed. When it comes to the external debt, a lot of progress has been made in the discussions with bilateral creditors. An agreement in principle has been reached in January. And the authorities have accelerated, most recently over the past few months, engagement with commercial creditors and bondholders in particular. If you look forward, what I refer to in terms of what we need to go to the board refers to the engagement with the bilateral creditors. It's about formalizing the agreement in principle and agreeing on a memorandum of understanding so that we can proceed with the board meeting. What we can say on that is that very good progress is being made, and we are quite confident that this will be done in a timely manner. As far as the bondholders are concerned, what we need is to continue to see progress similar to what we have seen in recent months. The standard for us to be able to go to the board is that the government makes good faith effort to reach an agreement that is compatible with the program objectives and the program parameters. And this is definitely what we are seeing at the current juncture. Election spending, I think the minister has been very clear about that, acknowledging that past electoral cycles have not been very conducive to keeping spending and keeping the fiscal on track, in check. But what do we see at the current juncture? I think what we see, if you look back, is a program that is on track, targets that have been met, commitments that have been fulfilled, and that gives us some comfort. At the same time, if you look forward, we have still very, very strong commitments from the Ghanaian authorities. You heard from the minister as soon as he took office that he explained very clearly his commitment to the program objectives. And we also heard that from, at all levels of the government. That also gives us great comfort. As far as the cocoa and energy sectors are concerned, these are two sectors where, of course, there are challenges that the government is trying to navigate. Let me start with the cocoa sector. In each mission, when we have been here, we have spent a lot of time engaging with Cocoa Board, and the main angle of our discussions is to ensure that Cocoa Board's finances are on a sustainable track, while, of course, they implement policies to address the structural challenges that are being faced in the sector. And we have continued the discussions in the context of this mission. We understand that the government Cocoa Board are committed to ensuring that their activities, such as quasi-fiscal activities that have a bearing on their finances, are being curtailed and kept within an envelope that would ensure that their finances are sustainable, that they can continue to operate with sustainable finances. As far as the energy sector is concerned, the minister has made a reference to the energy sector shortfall. There is still, of course, a big gap between what the power sector is able to collect in terms of the bills and that are being collected on electricity sales and the underlying cost in the sector. And so the whole program was designed in a way that this shortfall would be, first of all, brought to light more transparently in the context of the budget. This is what you have seen now over the past 2 budget cycles. And second, that shortfall will be reduced over time. And we are seeing that this has been done. This has been done through implementation of tariff increases last year, significant tariff increases. And this is also being done through implementation of reforms that are really aimed at reducing commercial losses in the sector and reducing technical losses. That requires deep underlying structural reforms that have been laid out in the ESRP document that the government published, I believe, in September, which was also a commitment under the program. So this is where we are. We had an opportunity to discuss all of that and the progress being made in the context of this mission. We are comfortable that the shortfall can be kept in line with what we had in mind in the context of the program, and we are comfortable that the reforms are being implemented in a way that is also consistent with the program.
Thank you very much, Stefan. We'll take the next set of questions, please.
Yes, let me respond to that.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me, Minister.
Let me respond to the revenue gap, the 1.8 billion city revenue gap. And I'm happy the Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority is here with us. I'll call her to add some responses to what I will give. And so we all recall the reason government had to suspend the implementation of VAT on electricity consumption for residential consumers. And that created a gap, a revenue gap of about 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. And when you have a revenue gap, it means that you will miss out on your fiscal targets in the budget. And so you have to do something about it. One way to address this is expenditure rationalization. But if you do expenditure rationalization, you still will not be able to meet one of the important fiscal targets under the program, and that is the debt service to revenue ratio. And so you need to be able to fill in the gap in order for you not to miss out on that very important target of the program. And so we had to look at alternative measures to generate more revenue to fill in that gap. And so for those alternative measures, some of which were announced in the budget statement of 2023 and also 2024, but were not effectively implemented. And so now we are determined to effectively implement these measures to generate the desired revenue to fill in the gap created as a result of the suspension of the VAT. Now, what this means is that when we take a decision as a government which borders on our fiscal framework, there are consequences. And the consequences could be dire unless we are proactive enough to find ways to fill in the gap and avoid those consequences. One of the consequences could be that you miss out on the target, the fiscal targets, and the IMF program then suffers. And the country is then returned to challenges, economic challenges that we all have been trying to prevent since we signed on to this program. The other consequences could be for people to pay more taxes. And we are determined to go out there and collect the taxes from those who have not been paying, those who have been evading taxes. We are going to go after them. And we are also pursuing reforms within the tax administration to ensure that proper assessments are done and people pay the right taxes that they have to pay to the state. But as far as these specific measures, I'll invite the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority to add flavor to the points I have raised earlier. And so, Madam Julie,
yes, sir.
I vacate my seat for you.
Oh no, Minister,
in the
please,
interim.
Minister, please let me. Yeah, please. This is a very hot seat. But thank you so much. Standing on all protocols. We will specifically speak to the measure that is replacing the VAT on electricity. As Minister said, the measure that we have to put in place has to be a sustainable, clearly defined measure to replace the 1.8 and beyond. So the measure that we put in place is a compliance measure on foreign income of resident Ghanaians. Please, resident Ghanaians. Okay. This measure is already in the law, as Minister said, so it is not a new measure. The difference is that its implementation and application has not been implemented effectively. So in order for us to implement this measure, we have gone through with the aid and assistance of the OECD, gone through credible and sustainable processes and structures to ensure that when we implement this measure, the sustainability of this measure is going to go beyond 2024 in our revenue numbers. So this is the measure that, together with GOG and our mother ministry, the Ministry of Finance, is going to take place, or is going to replace the VAT on electricity. And we're not hopeful, we're confident on the sustainability of this measure and its credibility to replace the 1.8 billion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam CG, Ms. Julie Esiam. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from the GRA as they do more sensitization about this measure. We'll take the next set of questions. Please, let's make it brief. We're almost out of time. One question each, please.
One question. Thank you very much. My name is Eko. I correspond for Bloomberg. So I have one for Finance Minister. Finance Minister, commercial bondholders are adamant about a value recovery instrument. And I know government is opposed to including a value recovery instrument in your debt negotiations. What is the status of that? And is that not what is delaying, so to say, your negotiations?
Thank you, Eko.
One question for Rude.
Rude on cocoa.
Cocoa, part of the problem with Cocoa Board is that they subsidize farmers during periods where the cocoa price is not doing well internationally. And that's part of what has built up to what you're seeing today. Do you think that calling for government to stop fixing cocoa prices and allow demand and supply to determine, thereby cutting off the subsidy that I know that the fund doesn't really support, would that be any option that will be to consider? Thank you.
Thank you, Eko. I'm only allowing the first question. I'll see if Stefan wants to take the second. We'll take the next question, please.
I'm Maxwell Adumbile from Reuters. To Governor and Rode. Governor said that they expect flexibility from the fund to reflect changing dynamics in the Ghanaian economy. Governor, could you expatiate exactly what those flexibilities are that you expect and what are they hinged on? And relating that to the question Eko just asked, those flexibilities are supposed as a result of gains being made in the economy, for which reason the bondholders are asking for the value recovery instruments. How do we request the fund to take this into consideration in giving flexibility and still negotiate with the bondholders without requesting, taking to their request for a value recovery instrument? Thank you.
Thank you, Maxwell. Final question, please. George wants to have another chance. Let's give it to him.
Still, this question is to the governor. In respect to your end-of-year inflation target, you're saying that despite all the blips that we are seeing now, there's a possibility that transport fares could go up. There are still projections that fuel prices will go up. Taking into effect the first round effect and the second round effect, would you still end the year with up to 15% inflation target? Thank you.
Thank you, George. So I'll summarize the questions briefly. There's a question about the status of our negotiations with the commercial bondholders. Minister, that is for you. And there was another question related to that, which was asking that the flexibility that we stated is expected in these negotiations, what is the flexibility hinged on? There was a question about cocoa sector, which I'm making optional because there was a second question. And then finally, end of year inflation target for you, Governor. Do we still expect to maintain the target that we have set? Before I hand over to the Minister to answer the first question about the status of the negotiations, I'll just say to the media that the negotiations are ongoing and they are covered by an NDA, so we are limited in what we can say. So I hope you understand, but I'll leave Minister to respond. Minister, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Ruth, as you rightly said, the negotiations are ongoing, and over the last 2 months, we'll be more aggressive in our negotiation with the commercial creditors and the bondholders, the Eurobond holders. And we are very confident that if things go the way they are, we certainly will reach a deal at some point. But what is significant is that in all these negotiations, we are mindful about the fiscal targets. We are mindful about the debt sustainability targets because we do not want to reach a deal which falls outside the program targets for debt sustainability. And this is guiding all the negotiations that we are doing with our bondholders. Let me say that the NDA we have signed with the bondholders is supposed to expire somewhere on Monday, and we'll provide updates at the end of the NDA on the progress we have made, the working formula we have, and our determination to continue to negotiate to the level where we can have a deal that is acceptable to all of us, but that also does not deviate from the IMF program targets for debt sustainability. So this is what I can say for now.
Thank you very much, Minister. Stefan, would you like to add something to that?
No, I don't have anything to add to that, but I'm happy to take on the two other questions. The first one on the cocoa and the question of subsidies. You may remember that in the Memorandum of Economic and Financial Policies that underpin the first review of the program, the government had committed to set prices for farmers in a way that really balances two objectives. One is to ensure that farmers have enough income to encourage production, to make sure that they have that they can live in decent circumstances, but also at the same time balances the objective of having cocoa board finances that are kept on the sound footing. And so this is what the program is about, and this is what we are discussing, especially in light of the recent decision to increase prices by 58%, the decision that was taken last week. So the discussions during this mission were about, okay, let's look at the new price, let's look at what are the implications for cocoa board, what type of adjustment can be made to make sure that the cash flow projection remain broadly consistent with what we had discussed in the past. And this is what we have done, and this is what we have achieved during this mission. As far as the general policies of subsidies are concerned, our view is that the cost of those should not be borne by cocoa board, and so hence the idea that throughout the program period, the Cocoa Road program would be phased out, and the other types of subsidies that Cocoa Board is providing would also be phased out, so that over time, if such activities are being conducted, Cocoa Board should be compensated for those by the government. Flexibility on the program. I just want to. The big picture here is that really, reviews are meant to assess performance under the program, but they're also meant to discuss the current economic circumstances, adjust policies here and there to make sure that, given the current economic circumstances, given the projection and the revised projection, the objectives of the program are still within reach. And so during the last review, some of you may remember that we had that BOG was overperforming on the reserve front. And we agreed that some of that overperformance should be locked in. And this has been the case. Not only this has been the case, but the Bank of Ghana actually overperformed even those objectives that we had set at the time of the first review. But of course, when economic circumstances, and this is the case at the current juncture, given what is happening in the cocoa sector, the lower production, we also have to adjust the program objectives in a way that is consistent with the current circumstances. As long as the endpoint and the overall program objectives of restoring macroeconomic stability, of achieving all of the targets, including that George, you were referring to, the 15% inflation by the end of the year, remain achievable. And that's where we are at the current juncture, and that's where we have reached staff level agreement.
Thank you very much, Stefan. We'll now move to Governor to respond to the question on inflation, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that Stefan has. I think Stefan has more or less answered the question that was asked by Maxwell. Really, the whole idea was to give you a sense of some of the discussions that we had, over the past 2 weeks that the fund has been here. If you look at the fund program that we have a monetary policy consultation clause, right, which defines bands for the inflation outcome. So one of the issues that we discussed was the fact that we are doing better than forecasted in terms of the inflation. If we were to strictly go by the rules under the monetary policy consultation plan, we need to sort of try to explain why we are doing better than the original, path for inflation was. So these are some of the issues where at least the fund has exercised that flexibility. We all agreed that maybe we shouldn't be interpreting the lower part of that consultation clause as strongly as we would if we were on the other side. If we were doing badly in terms of, the inflation outcomes, then probably the issue of a consultation with the fund will become more imperative. So those were the kinds of discussions that we had. Similarly, on the issue that he raised about in terms of the target for the build-up of reserves, should we conclude debt discussions earlier than anticipated, and therefore we have to pay, for debt services during the year? Do we have an adjuster in terms of the targets that we have set for reserve accumulation for 2024? So really, it's just to give you a flavor of some of the discussions that we have had over the last 2 weeks. Yes, George, the inflation target, if you heard me very loudly and clearly, is that we have not adjusted our end year 15 plus or minus 2. We still think that this is within reach. We had expected that, would have had a continuous disinflation in terms of the path. But we saw what happened in March, which was consistent with the base effects from 2023. We think it's just a temporary development. The month-on-month increases in inflation are still on a downward trend, and we expect that in the second quarter of this year, we would resume the disinflation path, and therefore we haven't found it necessary to revise the targets for inflation for 2024. So we are on course.
Thank you very much, Governor. Indeed, in all senses of it, we are on course. We'll take a final round of questions. We're running out of time, so maybe just one or two. We're streaming live via the MOI Facebook, Bank of Ghana website, and our colleagues in Washington, D.C. at the IMF are also streaming this press conference. We've had a couple of questions come in via our MOF email, and we can take one question from there whilst we see if there's any additional question from here. So Francis Nto from the Ghana News Agency wants to ask, beyond the assurances, what pragmatic steps is the government taking to remain prudent with expenditure amidst the 2024 elections? So, Minister, this is going a step further to ask, what are the pragmatic steps that we are taking to hold the line on expenditure? We have one final question in the room.
Right, Minister, I want to find out.
Sorry, your name
and
your
is
media.
Obed.
Yeah.
I report for GH1 Television and Star FM.
GH1, thank you.
are you able to quantify how much of a factor of freezing of our external debt has contributed to the outperformance of this microeconomic target that you mentioned in your presentation in terms of quantification? Are you able to quantify in terms of the freezing of our external debts?
Sorry, can you clarify your question? Please ask it again. Thank you.
So during your presentation, you mentioned that we outperformed our microeconomic targets. So
Macro, yes.
Yeah. So I want to find out, are you able to quantify in terms of the freezing of our external debts, which has contributed to this outperforming of our macroeconomic targets?
Okay. So if I'm getting it correctly, are you asking what quantum of external debt has contributed to our DSA, essentially? Okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay. All right, we have one more question coming in from online, and this is concerning the World Bank. So the question is, what is the update on the World Bank financing support for Ghana in the wake of the impact assessment done by the ministry a few weeks ago? So any update on the World Bank financing support for Ghana after the impact assessment that was just completed? So, Minister, perhaps we can take the first question about the pragmatic steps regarding expenditure. We have been streaming live. Thank you to all our media partners who have paused their very important programming to stream this conference live. A special thanks to Joy, who paused their flagship news file program, producer Sami Odame, presenter Samson Ladi Anyenini. We are very grateful, and of course, George, we are fair to all of you. Several of you paused your programming to feature this very important press briefing. We do not take it lightly. Minister, we can start with the first question, perhaps. Thank you.
So thank you. Let me start with the question on the steps we are taking to address the expenditure side. As you already know, we have an arrears clearance plan that we have been implementing, and the arrears continue to be one of the major areas where expenditure suffers. And so if we are addressing that, then certainly it means we are committing less and less money relative to the arrears that have been accumulated over the years to finance these arrears. So the arrears clearance plan is being implemented. And some of the other things we are doing is to onboard more agencies to the gift mix. I think that the number has increased. More than 200 agencies are being onboarded to the gift mix system. And I believe you know what the gift mix system is, which requires us to ensure that people do not, or agencies do not embark on extra budgetary spending, or they do not embark on spending that is not approved. So that is also being implemented. And there are other expenditure control measures that we are implementing to ensure that we hold the line on expenditure. The other issue raised is about the external debt. If you want, let me give you the figures in terms of the size of the external debt. And so $5.1 billion with our bilateral creditors, $2.7 billion with other commercials, and then $13 billion with our Eurobond holders. And you will notice that even before the debt restructuring, the targets for the debt sustainability had been set at program commencement the targets had been set. And so this debt suspension was already borne in mind at the time the targets were set. They were factored into that. So our performance is not as a result of the suspension, but as a result of the pragmatic policies and programs government has been implementing. And I hope this is okay for the questioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. There is one more question about the World Bank financing support on the back of the recent assessment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you also have been monitoring the news, you know that the World Bank has disbursed $300 million US to Ghana as the first tranche of the DPO series. And we are negotiating to ensure that the DPO2 is also concluded so that we will get some other disbursements before the end of the year, hopefully another $300 million US. But this requires the support of Parliament. You know, Parliament needs to support us to approve the DPO series as it did for the first disbursement. And I have no doubt that we will continue to collaborate with Parliament to get the support of Parliament to approve the DPO series, you know, to unlock the disbursements that will come from the World Bank to support further the structural reforms we are implementing as a government.
Thank you very much, Minister. Governor, Dr. Addison, would come to you for closing remarks, please.
Well, I'm not sure what to say at this stage. I think that we all agree that we are making a lot of progress. We've had a successful second review, at least as judged by the mission chief, Stefan. He has to go back to Washington and convince his management, and then the management would also convince the executive board, I believe sometime in June. And after that June board meeting, hopefully we'll get another disbursement of $360 million, which will come to us at the Bank of Ghana and help strengthen our reserves further. So I think it's all very good news for Ghana.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Stefan, final comment?
Well, no, I don't really have much to add other than indeed there is work upon us and to bring that review to the board, and there is work upon the government and the Bank of Ghana to continue to implement the program and ensure that the objectives are being met, and we'll continue to work very, very closely together to make sure that all of that happens.
Thank you, Stefan. And finally, Honorable Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam.
Well, mine is to express our gratitude again to all of you, the fund, the Bank of Ghana, and of course our media our friends for the continuous collaboration we continue to enjoy from each other. I mean, I have no doubt that this country is on a good course. I am very confident that this economy is going to get stronger and stronger. But that will also require the sacrifices and the patience of our people. And therefore, I want to use this opportunity to call on Ghanaians to continue to support our efforts. Some of the reforms that we are implementing are biting. Some of them are really difficult. But I know that we will persevere together. We will lead together. And we will ensure that the benefits of the fiscal consolidation and the reforms we are pursuing will eventually come to the people of Ghana, bring significant relief to the people of Ghana, so that we can be counted once again as one of the fastest growing economies in the world. A fiat we have achieved several times under the presidency of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I also want to say that our success at reaching staff level agreement will not be taken for granted. We know that there is so much work to do, and we are committed to doing our part as a government to implement all these policies and programs so that particularly the poor, the vulnerable are protected. And this is why we intentionally negotiated certain interventions, social interventions in the program in order to ensure that those that will be affected negatively by the policies we are implementing are protected, so we can carry everybody along as a government. And so let me end it here by thanking all of you once again, and hoping that you will give this significant coverage for the people of Ghana and beyond to know the good work we are doing here. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I will not give a report on the state of the economy, the monthly one for April. This will stand for that. And so the next time you will see me giving a report will be May, unless there is an urgent issue that we need to communicate to you and to the people of Ghana. So God bless you all. God bless our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Before we leave, ladies and gentlemen, we started with a prayer, so we will end with a prayer. We have the honor of inviting the Honorable Minister for State, Honorable Mrs. Abna Osei-Asare, to give us the final benediction.
Thank you very much, Minister, Governor, Stefan, Leo, and everybody here. After this announcement of a successful second IMF review, I want to express utmost appreciation to God for his mercies and guidance throughout this review. He has sustained and nourished us to reach this position, and so we are grateful. I'd also like to thank the President, President Akufo-Addo, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is also our flag bearer, and members of Cabinet for the strong support and direction as we continue to implement the IMF-backed PCPEG program. Our heartfelt gratitude also goes to our Minister for Finance, Honorable Mohammed Amin Adam, for his sterling leadership of the ministry in this process. In this short time, and amidst transitions, including the sad passing of Honorable John Kuma, he has managed to rally the government side and engage the fund to achieve the staff-level agreement. His commitment throughout the preparatory meetings and direction throughout the last 2 weeks cannot go unnoticed. Minister, we thank you for your leadership. And to the Bank of Ghana, led by the Governor, Dr. Addison, and his deputies, we thank you for the insightful comments and responses that have shaped the progress we have achieved to date. Stefan and your team, thank you for the congenial and constructive engagement under this second review. We do not take for granted the level of professionalism that you continue to display as we work to implement the program. And to the people of Ghana, we are most grateful to you for all the sacrifices and the support that you have given to us. Parliament has also been a very good partner in passing key agreed reforms under this program. So to the Speaker of Parliament and members of Parliament on both sides, we say thank you for your valued partnership. At this moment, let me also acknowledge the support of our colleague ministers from the ministries, departments, and agencies. Our collective progress has been on the back of your understanding and support as we implement this fund program. Our technical team here at the Ministry of Finance and other institutions have also lived up to their call of serving our nation. Their sacrifices, some through difficult times, is most admirable. Chief Director, I think this is it the second successful review under your leadership? So Chief Director Eva and your team, we are very grateful to you for your professional guidance and dedication to the country. And to our friends from the media, we thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us, and we feel grateful that you continue to show significant interest in this program and continue to inform and educate our people. I pray and hope that whatever we said here will be translated exactly as we all said it, as we go out to share this good news with the people of Ghana. That is very, very important. And let us continue with this framework of engagement and education as we build a resilient economy for all of us. So thank you, everyone, for being here, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Thank you. Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the progress that we have made as a nation. We know we are not there yet, but with the support and the hard work of the people of Ghana, we know we will get there. Help us and see us through it all. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all very much, and a blessed weekend.